Hey guys, it's Tim coming at you with a brand new Marvel Cinematic Universe video for this week. So with Spider-Man Homecoming less than a year away, people tend to have two reactions to the fact that a new Spider-Man movie is coming out. They're either excited that the Marvel Cinematic Universe finally gets to do their version of Spider-Man, or people are frustrated by the fact that this is the second reboot of Spider-Man in less than 20 years. But that could actually be one of the greatest benefits of Spider-Man Homecoming, since because they're so recent, you can learn a lot from the past Spider-Man movies in order to improve this version of it. And before anyone says anything, no, I don't hate the Sam Raimi or the Mark Webb Spider-Man films. But that doesn't stop them from having flaws that could potentially be fixed with this new version. But with that said, let's take a look at the main character himself, Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man. Now, whether you love or hate the Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield versions of Peter Parker, there is one thing that I feel is similar between the two. They come across as very creepy very often. Now, to be fair, part of this is that both of them were full-grown men attempting to play high school or college-age students, and it didn't really work out in their favor. But it's also because of weird directing and acting choices in kind of different directions in both movies. Tobey Maguire attempted to overplay the nerdier aspects of Peter Parker, but mixing that in with how wide-eyed he is naturally, it comes across as unsettling a lot of the time. Andrew Garfield, on the other hand, tended to have a different problem with his delivery. He had this weirdly restrained way of speaking that, for all intents and purposes, could have been just because he was attempting to hide his accent, but because of this and some of the more awkward physical tics that he gave the character, it also came across as being somewhat unsettling whenever he was speaking with anyone one-on-one. Now, for both of these two, not all of the things that ended up making them seem this way were actually inherently bad, and I feel that with both a younger actor with Tom Holland, and with some more refining of these particular traits, they can get a much stronger Peter Parker performance. So let's move on from Peter himself to his main love interest in both movies, Gwen Stacy played by Emma Stone and Mary Jane Watson played by Kirsten Dunst. Now, many people have stated their problems with Mary Jane in the Sam Raimi films in that she always ends up getting captured and most of her arc in the movies is about a will-they-won't-they relationship between her and Peter that gets derailed for one reason or another in every movie. That and the fact that she's incredibly fickle and will leave whoever she's currently dating at the drop of a hat just because she's feeling bad or someone was nice to her. Now, to be fair, this could have worked if they had been able to push the abusive family angle more than they did, but because of the campy nature of the films, really just makes the character come across as being inconsistent and honestly not a very good love interest. Emma Stone's Gwen, on the other hand, though better, also tends to have problems to her, which seem to be reactionary to Kirsten Dunst being seen as such a damsel in her movies. On the flip side, Gwen comes across as being almost hyper-competent, where, especially in Amazing Spider-Man 2, she knows basically everything and is so good at stuff that she almost ends up, or actually does, discredit Peter to a degree. And this isn't saying that the love interest can't be smart or competent in their own degree, but she ends up being the solution to so many different problems throughout the course of at least the second movie, that you almost wonder how Peter is going to go on saving the day after she's not there. That and the fact that she appears to have both super hearing and supervision, as she's able to seize things from several miles in the distance, or hears things over electrical feedback when she's in a completely different building. So with any future love interests in Spider-Man Homecoming, hopefully they can make them less of a damsel and still have some competency without completely overshadowing what Peter can do. So while we're on the topic of love interest, let's next move into the rest of the supporting cast. And both of the previous two series both have the same problem, but also have completely opposite problems to one another. The supporting cast doesn't really do anything. Oh, there are definitely some memorable characters, especially in the Sam Raimi trilogy, but in both film series, the supporting cast really don't have all that much to do. And this is where the opposite problem comes in with the two series. Sam Raimi's film almost has too many supporting characters to the point that none of them really can do anything because they're all fighting for screen time. With the web films, there's basically a lack of supporting characters, especially in Amazing Spider-Man 2. And in both, the supporting cast is either there to be comic relief, or in order to move the story along, especially Aunt May in the Sam Raimi films. And doing both of these things aren't necessarily bad, but that seems to be the sole focus of why they're there, and it doesn't lead to a lot of engaging characterization from anyone besides Spider-Man and his current love interest. So with Homecoming, which seems like it's also going to have a lot of supporting characters like the Sam Raimi films did, hopefully they can find the time in order to build some more behind the supporting characters beyond the superficial nature of the previous two series. And the final note that I'm going to focus on here is the villains. And this one honestly won't be that long because both film series have basically the same problem with their villains. All of them basically have a sudden jump to villainy with very little transition between who they used to be and who they became. Really, the only exception to this, in my opinion, would be Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2, because he has an actual justification for both why he hates Spider-Man, because he feels that him pulling the plug caused his wife to die, and also because it makes more sense due to that he would give in to the voices in his head. But with other characters, they just suddenly become villains as soon as they get their powers, with very little justification. Especially I find with the villains of the web films. This is even a problem for Harry Osborn, who had the most time in both series to develop into his villain, where he honestly doesn't do all that much for the first part of Spider-Man, and then at the end just goes straight to, I hate Spider-Man, I'm going to kill him, and stays that way until the end of the third movie. So there's really two solutions to this for Spider-Man Homecoming. They can either spend more time showing the transition between who they were before and them becoming a villain, or just start them off as a bad person so you don't have to worry about that. But those are just my viewpoints on the subject, and I'm sure there'll be some disagreement with some of the things that I said, so let us know in the comments what you think should be done in order to improve from the past films in Spider-Man Homecoming. And if you're new here and you like what you've seen, feel free to subscribe. But until next time, this has been Tim from the Hybrid Network, signing out.